in this world as it is, we have to make trade-offs and therefore freedom works. That's not an inspiring vision. So we love Thomas Sowell as well, but now it's time to say what is my problem with Thomas Sowell. So, and why I think he cannot change the culture. So he's so good with facts. But what is his philosophical outlook? His philosophical outlook is what I would call empiricism. So actually, and this is not necessary, so focusing on facts is not a bad thing. So famously, when asked, why did you stop being, what made you, what was your wake-up call for stop being a Marxist? Thomas Sowell said, facts. And this is all good, but here's the problem. For Thomas Sowell, facts in a way cannot be translated to, let's say, universal moral imperatives. So, for example, you can hear him say there are not solutions, there are only trade-offs. This is one of his famous lines. Or economics start from scarcity, and the problem with politicians is that they forget this. Or you can hear him saying that, well, the leftist point of view is very nice in theory. The problem is facts so that they don't work in real life. Now, there is one context that all this makes sense, that of course we begin by facts. But Thomas Sowell, in his hesitancy to draw moral conclusions from these facts, leaves himself, not himself open, but leaves unanswered the moral question. So is capitalism good because, quote, it works? I would say it's the opposite. It works because it's based on moral principles that are compatible with who we are as human beings and all that stuff. Thomas Sowell is not going to take these steps. So he's very, very cautious not to take the step to the moral defense of capitalism. I mean, he does it sometimes in passing. For example, that famous quote, why is it greed for me to make more money, but not greed for you to want my money? But he doesn't push it a bit better to go to the moral essence. So that, I would say, is my problem with Thomas Sowell. And no, there are solutions. Not everything is a trade-off, because some things shouldn't be traded. So, for example, your right to your life or to your property shouldn't be, quote, traded, even if it produced, quote, better results. So am I being too strict with Thomas Sowell, Mark?
No, I think this is a problem with conservatism in general. I think that came out in the debate that Yoram had on Friedman, Lex Friedman, with Yoram, I forget his last name.
Yeah.
Yeah. That guy divides the world into rationalists and empiricists, with empiricism being embraced by the right, by the conservatives, and rationalism being embraced by the left. And of course, Yoram Brook pointed out that that's a false dichotomy, that we need not have these floating abstractions which attract the left but are not connected to reality, nor is it about just disconnected series of events or things that happen in the world that we can't integrate into principles. It's a combination of the two. We acquire principles by these empirical observations. I think Thomas Sowell attempts to do that in his visions, his two conflicting visions of society that he talks about in some of his work, primarily in the vision of the anointed, when he's sort of lambasting the academic left, and talks about their vision versus the tragic vision. So I think he tries to encapsulate all of the realistic perspective of man, the perspective that he assumes the founding fathers had, with the tragic vision of life. I don't know if you want to define those terms for people or what, but I think that's his version of a principle.
Tell us a bit more though, why tragic? Because I think it's important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming you may have observed something different and more deeply than me about this. The tragic vision just doesn't assume perfection. It doesn't assume moral perfection in human beings. It understands they're capable of error and or evil, and because of this, it becomes a part of the context of how we reason about social systems, economics, pretty much everything. So it's an attempt to not idealize man, but to put his feet on the ground and show him for what he is.
So I think that's his vision. And this is a vision that was criticized by Ayn Rand in this way. He says, so what are you conservatives saying is that the reason why we can't have, let's say, socialism or equality is because we're imperfect. So would this mean that if we were perfect and, for example, our central planners would be morally without any flaw, then socialism would work? So she makes this criticism, I think, in Conservatism and Obituary. And this is indeed the case with the vibe you often get from Thomas Sowell, that I wish things could be better, but they're not better. And in this world as it is, we have to make trade-offs, and therefore freedom works. That's not A, I don't think this is why freedom works. B, that's not an inspiring vision. People are not going to go to the barricades for this vision. So all the respects for Thomas Sowell, great influence on me, a huge influence on me as it is he's on you. But I think this is his limit. He's very, very, very good, a very good researcher, a very good communicator. Not as good in his philosophical starting points and in his the implication of his work in philosophical terms. And Enric says, thank you very much for your contribution, Enric. Sowell is excellent at drawing conclusions out of facts. Still, it's the morality of altruism that he supersedes foremost. Exactly. Even if you go with these facts, even if I've gone with these facts, I've seen it with my university students. They nod, they scratch their head. Tomorrow they forget them. Why?
Like as you were saying before, Thomas Sowell doesn't defend capitalism on moral grounds, and Walter Williams did attempt to defend capitalism on moral grounds, but using a different ethics than Rand's revolutionary ethics. For example, Walter Williams would say, look, capitalism is about service. And my certificate of service is that dollar that I earned. That dollar is proof that I provided a value to the world. Now, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. And it's a very clear and homespun way of getting people to understand that, oh, well, okay, I see how things work in a free exchange society. We provide values and exchange these values, but it's doing it from a different perspective than Rand, who doesn't make any apologies for the fact that you're doing it for yourself, for your own growth and well-being.
That's why we said, Mark, that objectivism, if we want to make a martial arts parallel, is the BJJ of philosophy. It's the one system that can beat all other systems. I mean, if you're Thomas Sowell, you're good, let's say you're a good striker, someone's going to be better, they're going to do something else. Objectivism is the system that has the answers, in a way, the philosophical system that has the answers to all other systems. And with that, I will leave the parting words to you again. The topic was your idea, and I really enjoyed today's episode. So thank you for your suggestion, and I will leave the last word to you.
Thomas Sowell is a very worthy intellectual, and despite the fact that he's embraced to some degree by the right and the conservatives, he has so much more to offer than I think even the conservatives mine from him, particularly with the most important issues that are at the forefront of our arguments today with respect to race, income inequality, and disparities between cultures. He unabashedly tells the truth. It's what you need to read. It's a great stepping stone for even advancing further in objectivism. So read him, devour him. He's written a lot. He's prolific. So you'll take a lot of time reading him.